All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's been, I believe, 2 weeks now. I went on a vacation, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Now, there's two main things I just want to point out here, and we're going to jump over to the 30-minute chart and just kind of review what happened here after I left back. I believe the last day we were together was back on Friday, September 24th. And then we basically have this whole area right here that has traded since I have left. And what I want to point out is, first of all, we came into the market on Monday morning. We pushed up right up into here, right around 44.71. Well, surprisingly, we had an eye level sitting right there. I think we broke that level by maybe one or two ticks. And when we got up there and we pulled back from that level, we had I think we had the daily all the way down to the short time frames, giving a bearish divergence up there, and that was right in the middle of the night. So from Sunday's Globex going into Monday morning, we had that really nice, again, right into an eye level, and we had the daily all the way down to the short time frames, giving a bearish signal up there. So had you have noticed that coming into the morning on Monday, it would have given you a bearish bias going into the open. Of course, things kind of were sideways all day there, so nothing ever really transpired as far as a sell-off until the rest of the week happened. But just want to point out that had you have seen that, it would have helped you out going into the beginning of that week. And you can see from the high we made on the Globex back from that Sunday, we did get, a protracted sell-off from there for just about 200 points or so. Now, when we sold off and we came down here to this low we made back on October 1st, we then got the opposite. So when we came down here, we bounced. Now, there was an eye level sitting there, I believe at around 69 there, and we held it for quite a while. And then I believe in the middle of the night, it pushed down by 9-10 points, broke through the eye level, came right back up, and then held it. And when we came down and made that extreme low there, right around 42.59, 42.60, that's when we got a bullish divergence on the opposite end. So for those that are familiar with my strategy, you've taken my course, this was a beautiful multiple time frame bullish setup from the daily all the way down to the short time frames. And ever since then, we never came back down to test that. We did hold our eye level at 69 multiple times. So once we broke through and got above it, we pulled back, held the eye level at 69 multiple times, never came back, and then have started to make this attempt to push higher here back and potentially kind of come up and test the all-time high we made back at the beginning of September. So I just wanted to point out that we did have the two beautiful multiple time frame setups occur. The first one occurring on Monday of September 27th, then the low of October 1st. That should have helped orient you going into those sessions. So let's go ahead and jump to our ultra high time frames here and take a look at what has happened here since I left at the end of September. And right now on our quarterly chart, our 3-month, you can see nothing really has changed here. Everything looks pretty strong. Yes, we do have a little bit of some bearish stuff going on at the moment, but we don't have any type of bearish divergence on the quarterly right now. Something important to point out here is that if you look at this whole leg, so you can see this is going all the way back to 2009, got this really strong push, had a little bit of a pullback here, so maybe you could argue there's a decent leg, I guess, from this low here. But what I want to focus in on here is this push up and then this pullback from what was the all-time high back here in February of 2020, this giant pullback here from the COVID sell-off. Then when we bounced at 21.17, we had this new leg up. So if you measure that leg here, you get this push from 21.17 all the way to the all-time high, which I believe is 45.40. Notice here this 38% retracement. From a retracement perspective, the market could come all the way back to 3,600 and we'd still be in pretty strong bullish territory. And then notice if we go a little bit further to the 50% retracement, it brings us right back almost to the tick to that high we made before the sell-off back in February of 2020. So, if we are going to get a stronger sell-off here, we're still in bullish territory from a retracement perspective here if we hold some of these key levels below us. But that is a very far, push down. We're talking, once we get down into 3,600 here, 3,500, we're almost at like a 25% correction in the market. If I have my numbers correct here, maybe 20%. So pretty big drop if that does occur. So let's go ahead and start looking into the shorter time frames. We're stuck. Well, maybe I should rephrase that. We're still on our high time frames here, but we're going to dial down to our monthly, which is still a pretty high time frame. So remember, we talked about this last month. So back in September, we talked about the fact that we pushed to a higher high compared to the previous bar, but we actually were pushing lower on RVI. So this marking you see on the chart here, I had this on here since I left, before I left for my vacation. So we had that indication. We did say we had to wait for the bar to close really before we could have any type of kind of reliance on the signal, but we were watching that, and that was on our minds all throughout the month of September, was that bearish case that we saw off the all-time high. And then ever since then, we pushed back from about 4,500. We're down almost to 4,250 here. So we're looking at, almost a 300-point correction ever since we pushed to that all-time high. Now, outside of that, on this monthly, don't really see anything else. You can see that same retracement scheme here from the low around 2117 all the way up to the all-time high. But nothing really important to point out. We did put all these lines on to measure the slope of the trends that we were seeing, and you can see the steepest slope we had was after that sell-off for the COVID, the COVID correction, I guess we could call it, and that was really the steepest slope, and we have kind of come through it now. We were holding it essentially all the way until we got to September, and then we started kind of cutting through that. Not really anything to make a trading decision off of right now, but just interesting to note that we aren't holding that strong slope that we did have since the sell-off for COVID. So let's take a look here at the weekly. Now weekly, we can go all the way back, and there's that low from 2117 all the way up. But if we look and we zoom into this local area, we did get a pretty strong sell-off back in May, I guess. May down, from, I guess, beginning of May going into the middle of May, got a pretty decent sell-off there, and then got this strong push out and then continued up to the all-time high. So if we look at that leg and just focus in from that sell-off we got mid-May going to where we are now, you can see that we came down and we are essentially holding the 50% retracement, which just so happens to be that 4276.75 or right around that area. So we got the push up. So market sold off here pretty strong, found some support around 4,000, 4,010, whatever that is there, and then pushed up, and then now we found some stronger resistance and pulled back here. So holding 50% from this weekly perspective. Again, not necessarily anything to trade from, but we're just looking at the bigger perspective right now. And from this weekly perspective, we also do have that argument for a bullish divergence off the lows. So back before my vacation, you can see we were talking about the bullish case off of the pullback here to about 42.93. It did push from 93 all the way into the 4400s. So we're talking, over 100 points there, 42, about 43. So over 170 point push off of that low. But it has carried through, and now we can make a similar argument off of the lows, off of the lows from this previous weekly candle back for October 1st. That closed on October 1st. So we do have that potential bullish case there off of the pullback right now. And let's go down to our daily and start getting into maybe some more actionable information for trades here. So on the daily, we did get a nice bullish divergence back on October 1st. That's a nice agreement that we have here with our weekly bullish divergence from the candle that closed on October 1st. And outside of that, really nothing else to point out here. We did have a retracement scheme here. We held we pulled back and we held the 75%, but then that was it. It never really continued to follow through to the upside, and it started selling off here. But when we did pull back deeper, we got another bullish divergence. So we do need to heed that, because if we were back here on October 1st or October 2nd, because this would have been, the closed candle that we were looking at, we would have had a bullish case on the daily going into October 2nd. Now, it has been a little bit sideways and choppy in here, but overall, had you have caught some type of long down at the lows, let's just say around 42.70, it did push a good 50 points ever since we had that indication. And that was 50 points if you were late. If you actually caught 93, you got, let's see, am I counting this right? We made a low right around 42.60. It pushed all the way to 4,400. So that's actually about a 150 point push. If you got in a little late and you got there at 42.70, that's 140 point push if you were late. So again, just showing you that if you focus in on the daily, and keep in mind that you do have to wait for that candle to close, so you might end up being late on whatever happens. But if you just focus on the daily, a lot of these signals end up following through for 50, 100, 150, 200 point moves. So from the daily perspective here, I know this is getting a little long-winded, but we haven't been here for quite a while. So daily, and one thing I do want to point out, I forgot to mention here, from the weekly perspective, if you look at the last few weekly bars, so if you look at the one that closed on the 24th, the one that closed on the 1st, and the one that closed on the 8th last week, we are kind of in this choppy area right here from about 42, let's say 42.70 to 44.50, and it's been kind of chopping around in here. We do have the bullish perspective on the weekly and the daily, so now let's jump down to our 4 hour. And you can see, even if you're looking at this from a shorter time frame perspective, the 4 hour, even the daily that we were just on, still kind of stuck right in this whole area right here. And from a 4 hour perspective, we can make the argument for a bearish signal off of the high that we made back on, I believe that was the 7th. There was a little bit of a 4 hour bearish signal there, only because if you look back to the last major swing high compared to back here, we did push lower, but the RVI did push higher. So we do have that. And right now you can see there are a little bit of, I guess you could argue, this candle is going to close in about 45 minutes. So I don't want to base anything off of it, but there is at the moment a little bit of a bullish divergence happening here on our 4 hour chart. Another thing important to kind of pay attention to here is that it's also lining up with this previous resistance in the market. So from a 4 hour perspective, the candle body was right around 43.55 there, and you can see the low right here was 43.52. So just a few points below that body of that candle, we got some support. On top of that, it looks to me like that's just about a 38 to 50% retracement of that specific leg right there. And then if you draw it out to all of the price action for the actual extreme low there, we are sitting right around that 38% retracement. So potentially a good area to hold for the bulls. Outside of that, if we kind of look at the whole sell-off here from the all-time high all the way down to the low we made on whatever October 1st, where we got that multiple time frame bullish signal, we are sitting right around the 61.8 retracement of the whole push down, and we do have all this support in the market right here around 44.24 to 44.34 here, where the market bounced multiple times. Now that we come back up and test it from the bottom end, you can see we came right up to right around 44.24 there. This low was 44.25 quarter. This high was 44.2150. So just a few points off from that swing low there. and we did get that pullback. So, right now, I think this is going to be a little bit more of a difficult morning to call, only because we have a lot of conflicting stuff going on here. What I do notice out of everything that I'm seeing here is that we have this weekly bullish signal from October 1st, and we're getting agreement on the daily and the 4 hour so far, all the way back on October 1st. So there's more bullish cases right now than we do have bearish cases off the current high we're looking at. So we'll keep that in mind and jump down to our 60-minute here and take a look. And now we talked about the pullback and the bounce right off this previous swing high back here. You can see it with a little bit more resolution now on the 60-minute. And just kind of looking at where we're at right now as far as some of these signals that we're seeing. Going all the way back to October 1st, we had the agreement down there. So again, the daily all the way down, we already talked about, gave us the bullish case. We came up, and the 60-minute got an agreement with the 4 hour bearish signal up top here. And now we're pulling back. And right now, assuming that we end up holding the overnight low, so let's get that number, 43.52 quarter. That is going to be a pretty bullish case for the morning, but we're going to have to watch this right now. It is choppy in here. It very well could push down and come down and test lower retracement levels. We have some good resistance right around 43.19, right around where the prediction point is sitting there at 21. And for those that are members here in our group, we talked about a level right over here as well. So I think so far it's going to be kind of a battle here. We don't have the clearest picture over in the local area. If we go all the way back to October 1st, yes, we do have everything agreeing with the bullish case there. But ever since October 1st, we have got this pretty strong push out from 42.69 all the way to 44.21. So that could be all that signal really kind of yields. Let's take a look at the 30-minute here. So 30-minute, again, I had the agreement all the way back on October 1st. And now in this local area, I'm just looking at, okay, so there is, again, you guys know I do not like this type of stuff, but we do have the case where we've got this push up in price from the previous major swing low compared to where this low was made here earlier in the overnight session. You can argue that there was this large push down in RVI. So there is kind of the case there for a little bit of a bullish divergence there. And you can even see that if we jump back to the 60-minute, you can see it over here from this swing low back on October 6th up to the low we made here in the overnight session. We did have that same kind of argument that could be made there that I did not mention. So we'll throw that up there. And then just looking at the 4 hour really quickly here, this swing low, nothing really there. So, okay, let's go back now to the 30-minute. So we have that going on there, the 30-minute and the 60-minute agreeing with the bullish case from the pullback on the overnight. And let's take a look and see if the 10-minute got any type of agreement down there. What I'd like to see here on the 10-minute is something in the local area, and I don't quite see that. Again, someone who's just purely looking at every single peak, you could argue from that last swing low to the low we made here, you do have that case right there. So I guess there's that as well. But I think the overarching thing that I'm seeing this morning is we had a very strong bullish case back on October 1st. We got a pretty strong push out of that area once the bulls really gained some traction here. And now we're stuck, like we said, up here, right around the 61.8 retracement of the whole leg down. And so I think right now it's going to be important to watch the overnight low. So holding above that is going to be important. And then breaking through the highs that we made back on October 7th will be really important for the bulls to get through. And that's because, again, we're right around the 61.8 retracement area. And we're also let's see. And we were also coming off of that previous bounce that we got, and I'm just trying to find the time frame that we talked about that. Back here on the 4 hour, it's easier to see. So we came down, bounced right around this area, and now we're finding resistance right around that area. So again, getting through that, really important for the bulls this morning. Holding the low we made in the overnight, also a very important level for the bulls to hold. And then as far as specific levels and actionable trades, we're going to jump over to our members section of the pre-market now. And so for everyone else, have a great rest of your day.